Welcome back. Now, planning for the death of a loved one can be a difficult process, but it is necessary to ensure that all wishes are honoured and each family member has their voice heard.
Dr. Joan Cunningham, Medical Director at Our Lady's Hospice, joins us now to tell us how best to go about what is a tough and sensitive subject. Joan, we were chatting during the break. This is never going to be an easy conversation for anyone. I think that's probably safe to say. But it's a hugely important one, and one that the whole family will benefit from afterwards.
Absolutely. I think when somebody's diagnosed with a life-threatening illness, people's world are turned upside down. And it's really important that the person's voice is heard, because sometimes when we're attending the hospital or the GP, we can get caught up very much in the medical aspect of the care. So it's really important that the person who's going through this with their family sit down and discuss what's important to them, what way they want to approach it, where their place of care wants to be, are there things they need to address or discussions that they want to have. And it's never easy starting those conversations, and often it's a series of conversations over a series of cups of teas.
That's what I was going to say. It's not really going to be one conversation, is it? No. Particularly if there's treatment involved, then it seems very morbid to have that conversation.
And it's that balancing of hope with preparation. And sometimes during that course of events, things can change, things can be more positive. Sometimes people can do much better than initially anticipated, or sometimes people can deteriorate quite quickly. And so often what you're trying to prevent is these last-minute conversations in a very heightened anxiety state where people are incredibly sick and maybe not able to participate in the decision-making about their care, and families feeling that they're trying to make decisions on their behalf when we want to avoid that at all costs.
Let's talk about palliative care. First of all, what is it? But there seems to be some myths about palliative care in terms of who it's for. Can you just talk about palliative care generally?
At its simplest, it's an approach to caring for patients with advanced life-limiting illness, and the focus is on their quality of life. And we look after not only their physical symptoms, but also support psychologically, spiritual, and their social needs as well. And it's really important that no man is an island, so their family are included in that model of care as well. I think I totally understand when people have that conversation, or the doctors or the nurses have the conversation about it's time to refer to palliative care, or it's time for hospice, because we all have those memories of what hospice used to be. And the model has completely changed. We're there to focus on the positive of helping people live until they die and to live actively as best as they can, whatever that means to them.
I thought it was interesting that you say it's focusing on the person rather than the condition.
Absolutely. And I think in years gone by, the majority of patients we would have looked after would have patients with cancer diagnosis, and thankfully people with cancer are doing so much better now. But nowadays we're looking after patients with other diseases, neurological, end-stage lung problems, end-stage heart problems, and really trying to embrace all those people who have needs that need to be addressed, if they want them to, by a specialist team.
But it's also, in terms of the hospice, it's not going to the hospice, because the services that you guys offer, it's day patients sometimes to the hospice, and you also go to people's homes to offer hospice care.
We've a huge team. We have 2 sites between Blackrock and Harold's Cross, and we have 3 teams between those 2 sites. And last year they saw just shy of 500 people, but over 12,300 visits in patients' homes. But we also bring patients to our day services so that they can avail of these therapies that are on offer there, physiotherapy, occupational therapy, and even that group support that patients often get when they're sitting down beside somebody else who's going through a similar experience.
Well, that's true. And also, as you said earlier on, like, no man is an island, but there can be people who are on their own, or a very little family or friends around them. And having that opportunity to sit in amongst a group of people who are going through a similar experience, and just to talk about it.
And sometimes we totally understand when we say, do you want to come into the hospice for a day? People look very horrified. And what we'll say to them is to give it a try. If you try it for maybe 1 or 2 occasions and you find it's not for you, then at least we've tried it. But people can be very surprised that maybe they wouldn't have anticipated they would have got so much out of it.
It lifts their spirit.
And lifts their spirits,
yeah.
and actually they look forward to coming next week and seeing the friends that
And
they've made.
it's that all-important appointment in their diary as well, isn't it? It's somewhere to be.
Something to
And people
plan to.
expecting you.
Absolutely.
Can we talk about honouring a person's life? Because we hear more and more these days, I think, Joan, about people planning their own funerals, don't we?
Absolutely. I mean, it's really important. You know, people want to have some say in how they're remembered and what kind of service they want. And where do they want to wake? Do they want to be waked in a funeral directors? And having those conversations with their family can be really important for the family afterwards, so they know what their loved one wanted, and they can help shape the service or the remembrance event accordingly to their needs.
So is it important to be asking that family member who may not give you that information, what would you like from it?
And I think so. And then sometimes there are family members who will just defer it and say, look, you do what you need to do. And that's often a cue that actually it's too hard to have that conversation, and maybe just they trust the family to honour them appropriately. And again, it's a series of conversations as well. It's that balance of picking the right moment and the right time and creating that safe space to feel comfortable to have that conversation.
Are we changing in terms of our mindset when it comes to conversations like that? Even in terms of, you know, we had one of our financial planners on recently, and you can be in the fullness of your health. And even the thoughts of discussing maybe making a will can make you feel, oh, no, sure, why would it? Sure, we're grand. Are we getting better at that? Are those conversations happening more and more?
I hope so. I mean, it's funny you should say that, because I have to hold my hand up and say, I haven't written my will, but it's on my list of things to do, like so many other people.
Yeah.
I've just moved house, so I know I need to do it, and my solicitor is probably thinking she needs to do
Absolutely,
it.
yeah.
But I totally understand why people defer it for a later time.
It's just because we attach morbidity to it, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's as essential as planning house insurance.
Indeed. So it's one of those things, and it's once you do it, it's one job done, one less to worry about, and it's that sense of, okay, we can focus on other things now.
It's a conversation that we all need to have.
It is, and we are certainly getting better, aren't we?
I think so. I think so. And sometimes when we're put in that unfortunate situation where somebody in the family is very sick, it's not only having that conversation with the sick person, but also the other family members can sometimes say, well, I need to make my will known, or my wishes known, or make my will. And so it can have really positive outcomes as well.
I've been in the hospice in Harold's Cross. I'm sure you have too, Simon. The work that you guys do is incredible. So thank you very much for the solid advice this morning, but more importantly, it's just such important work in our society. So in Harold's Cross and Blackrock, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.